issues of waste. And we need to make sure we've got dialogue with these people, because I'm afraid if you're down here as a politician or as industry, people aren't going to believe you. So really, it's very important that the starting point for any communications to do with energy from waste, of course you've got to get your arguments together, but you must first start by thinking very hard about how the recipient of that information is going to react, and that should influence how you behave. I've got an awful lot of slides here. I'm not going to talk through them all. You can have a look at them later if you want. I think the critical point here is that environmental impacts are seen as having negative impacts on people's health and well-being. And health is a really emotive factor. We've seen statistics today to demonstrate that a woman living near a plant which is a source of dioxins can get dioxins in her breast milk, and there's a risk that that could be passed on to a child. That emotional image of that, again, is a far greater motivator in terms of people's behavior than you saying that the level of dioxins that that woman has got is not going to cause any problems to health. And the whole point about this is you cannot get into that debate without actually previously thinking about how you're going to handle those types of arguments. And I think the real issue for me is that people do become emotionally involved, and if we allow them to become emotionally involved in the issues, then we're at real risk that we're not going to have a sensible adult debate. In Britain, the fundamental mistake we made was we allowed a disconnect between the people's waste and the waste solutions. The members of the public do not see energy from waste facilities as their problem. There isn't a problem. Somebody turns up on a Thursday morning, they collect the waste, it goes away. It's not my problem. And somebody who suddenly comes back to them and says, you know what, remember that waste that went away? And I want to do something near your house to actually treat that waste, and their reaction will not be a considered and thought-through response. So, traditional tactics of protest in the United Kingdom, yes, we've got lots of usual lobbying of government, producing petitions and thinking about the planning system. And the problem that we really have these days is that we have to think about the environment we're now in. The internet is a benefit in terms of communications, and it's a problem in terms of communications. We all know that today, if we go on the internet and we say death from dioxins and incineration and put it into Google, thousands of pages will come up saying that it's going to kill you. And protest groups like this one, which is near an energy from waste plant in the north of England, go and download this information, and they turn up at planning meetings to demonstrate to councillors that actually we don't want this built near us because it's going to kill us. Now, scientifically, we know that's not true, and in the final planning decision, when they actually look at the scientific and engineering arguments for the development, they will accept those arguments. But the debate can be lost, and once you've lost the political will to get an energy from waste plant built, the energy from waste plant will certainly die. I don't know what it's like in Spain, but in Britain there are no votes in waste management. Some of the things I've heard over the last 24 hours have demonstrated to me that within Spain, there's some very serious politicians who are making some genuine positive moves to try and engage on these issues, and I wish them the best of luck with it. I was at this particular protest where this little girl at the front there was pulled out from the crowd. She was considered to be the prettiest child in the group, which I felt very, very sorry for all the other kids who were there, but she was pulled out to stand at the front to have a photograph taken. On the internet, there are guides for protesters about how you should oppose energy from waste facilities. You can go on, and one of the things they say is get your kids out. Get your children up there. Children are, again, another emotive image. And this pretty young girl was standing at the front, and the journalist was about to take the photograph, and they said, no, stop. We've got to put a mask on her to demonstrate, to get the point across that there's going to be a problem with pollution in this area. The scientific fact about the argument was irrelevant. Campaigns gear up to raise their fears was the point that's made. And the other point I would say is in that top corner there, you'll see a little image there of a great big incinerator saying, listen to the people. This is where the newspaper decided to back the local population against an incineration plant because it knew that its readers were not going to go for this particular facility. In the UK, getting royalty or any form of celebrity involved in a protest is always a good move, and this young child here at another plant wrote to Prince Charles, and Prince Charles sent a letter back saying, thank you very much, I really appreciate your letter, and I'll give it some thought at some point, but it's worth a page in a local newspaper, and she was obviously very happy to have got the letter from Prince Charles. But again, it's constant messages going out to the community that are negative about the proposal. And again, in most guides that you can find on the internet, you will find that you really must buy old gas masks and wear them whenever you're protesting against energy from waste, because it's guaranteed to get you space in a paper. And in terms of the media, images buy space. You have to think of images. That image we saw earlier on today will certainly buy space. This is my favorite image. This is a very busy high street in northern Britain, and if you can't quite see him here, we have the Grim Reaper who's coming through the population, wiping them out, and they're all dying on the street, and obviously there's nothing on television. You can see there's lots of people standing at the side watching this display going on. And again, this was worth about a page in the local paper to really paint the image to local councillors who are going to take this difficult planning decision that actually the local people didn't want it. So make sure when you take the planning decision, you take the decision the correct way, which is to say no. One other thing that I think we can learn from protest groups is if you want to have a look to see the really bad end of protest in the UK, have a look at this website. It's for an organisation called UK Win, which is UK without incineration. Just sorry, on that point about the word incineration, in the UK we do call it energy from waste. The problem I have with the word incinerator is that, not in its own way, it's a box, you burn stuff in it, that's all right. The problem I have with it is what you're building is not an incinerator. Nobody builds an incinerator anywhere in the world. We haven't done it for, 15 years? What you build is you build energy from waste plants or energy treatment plants which have an incinerator in them. When you go home and you get in your vehicle, you get in your motor car, you get in a car, you don't get in an engine. You get in a car. So I think we should really try and move away from just the use of the word incinerator. There is an incinerator there, but it's part of another plant. And by definition, when you start to explain that, you have to explain all the other technology which is involved. People's perceptions about energy from waste are based upon a box in which you burn something and everything goes up the chimney. It's about, we saw an image from Denmark of a horse and cart delivering waste to an incineration plant where it was exactly that. But that was in 1900. We've moved on a long way from that, and if we haven't been out there explaining to people the fundamental difference between real energy from waste today and their perceptions win, and you'll always have a difficult task. It's worth looking at that site. Every argument against energy from waste that you could possibly imagine is on that site. You should see it, you should work out what the alternative arguments are. These are the 3 points I really wanted to try and get across this morning. Firstly, people do not like change. They hate change. They're quite comfortable where they are. And if you suddenly say, actually, I'm going to do something, I'm going to make a change near where you live, and the population don't feel as though they've got any control over that, then you're more likely to get an adverse reaction from the local population. So what you have to do is you have to explain to them why that change is needed in the first place. The second fundamental truth is perception is truth. What people think is true. If they go on the internet and it tells them that it's going to kill them, that's what they're going to believe. Because protesters do not go on the internet to find the truth. They go on the internet to find information that supports their perception. And their perception is energy from waste is dangerous, and they look for that information. And the third truth, and this is really important, is what's in it for them. If you do not explain the connection between the plant and the local population, they will see no value in it for them. They will not want to accept it. The excellent examples we saw yesterday of Denmark, fundamentally, in my view, are seen to be energy from waste is seen to be a positive technology, is because it satisfies all these 3 things. Number 1, people don't like change. Well, it's not really change for them because they've had it for 100 years. Number 2, they know these plants are safe because they've been living with them for 100 years. And number 3, they know what's in it for them because a lot of those plants that have been built are run by communes where the local population either gets cheap heat or it actually can get cash. So there's something in it for them. So if you can satisfy these 3 fundamental principles of communications for the local population, you'll have a far better run when you're trying to get planning permission.